My name's Colin Castell. I'm the Associate Dean for Learning and Teaching in the faculty, in the ECMS faculty, which is Engineering, Computer and Mathematical Sciences. It basically means that I'm responsible for the quality of learning, i.e. the student learning outcomes, and the quality of teaching, I suppose the level of excellence that our lecturers aspire to. So I help with all of that stuff. And if you haven't moved in the last 20 minutes, I've already introduced myself in my capacity as teaching in the School of Mechanical Engineering. But now the next 25 minutes, I'm talking about, I suppose, the faculty as a whole. I'm not going to go into the detail of each of the programs because there's been presentations from specific schools throughout the day about their programs. I'll give you a bit of a heads up. If you've missed any of those presentations today, they'll all be available online. I'm not sure how long it takes for them, to figure out all the technical stuff and get it up online, but don't despair. It will all be available online if you've missed any of those school presentations. So let's give you a bit of an idea of our faculty within the University of Adelaide. Well, so I'm going to talk about the University of Adelaide. I'm going to talk about the fundamentals, as I say, and talk about the industry expectations of our graduates, give you some indication of our past graduates, what some really sort of special graduates are up to at the moment, and also a little bit about the study areas and the structure of the degrees, and hopefully, if I don't rub it on too much, there'll be some time for some questions and answers at the end of it all. So why would you choose the University of Adelaide, let alone choose computer science, maths or engineering? It's going to sound terribly snobby, but it is really all about pedigree. We're in the top 1% of the world's universities. So at the end of the day, when you graduate and you've got your parchment proudly hanging up on your wall and it says the University of Adelaide, everyone that sees that is going to know that you've graduated from a quality university. Not are we only in the top 1% worldwide, but we're a member of what's called the GO8. Now, you probably don't know what that means, unless you're sort of already working in the realms of academia, but the GO8 is the group of 8, and that's the top 8 universities. I think there's about 40 universities all up in Australia, but that's the top 8 universities, and between those top 8, they attract well over 50% of the nation's research funding. So that means that the learning and teaching, the courses that are going on, are backed up with all this groundbreaking research that's going on and getting fed into the curriculum as well. So there's a lot of money, not just coming in through learning and teaching, but a lot of money coming in through research as well. So as I say, I really don't want to sound snobby and put any other universities down, but we are really one of the best universities in Australia. So world-class teaching. One of the goals, we've got a few new goals now as a university because we've got a new Vice-Chancellor, but one of the goals we have of our graduates is we want them to be global ready. So while we'll be very, very happy if they get a local job and they're doing very well and they're very happy, we also want to create opportunities for our students to work interstate and to work overseas in some really exciting engineering and maths areas. So we want our students to be global ready. And there's some exciting projects that are sort of bubbling away at the moment. As I say, we've got a new Vice-Chancellor, so some of these goals are quite new. But I'm hoping, for one example, in January, I'm hoping to take between about 10 and 15 of my first-year students to China and teach them in China with a mixed class of Australian and Chinese students in China in minus 40-degree temperature conditions up in Harbin. But nonetheless, it's a very exciting opportunity for students to start learning overseas as part of their program. Now, on campus, there's a lot of assistance. We do believe in helping our students, both passively and proactively. So most of you by now would have walked through our hub. That's the hub of the university, the heart of the university. It's a really good place to go for general advice. They can send you to places to get advice about career services, or where to go if things are going wrong academically, where to go if things are going wrong personally or in terms of health. Okay, so we are sort of cognizant of the fact that life doesn't always go according to plan. So there's a lot of structure in place to help our students. We've also got a mentor scheme. We realise the fact that, old guys like me, might seem a little bit sort of unapproachable sometimes. So we've got a mentor scheme where slightly more senior students, level 2, level 3 students, are there to act as like big brother, big sisters to level 1 students and just help them out. Someone that's of a similar age that can point them in the right direction, perhaps give them some advice on good habits to get into because, they've learnt the hard way. So again, every school has got a mentor scheme designed to help and assist. Right, engineering. One of the reasons engineering is so exciting is, firstly, it brings together maths. Maths is fundamental to engineering. I mean, there wouldn't be engineering if it wasn't for the fact there's some really cool ways of crunching numbers together and calculating things and doing that very effectively and efficiently with computers. But the reason this whole realm is really exciting, look at what's happened to computers just in my lifetime. I mean, I was born in the 1960s, and in the late 70s, early 80s, I was working on computers that look very much like this here. Nowadays, you've got more computing, well, most of you, if you've got a phone in your pocket, you've got more computing power in your pocket than used to fill full rooms of 6-foot stacks of computers back in the 1960s. So if you look at the way that technology in computers has advanced from the 1960s to now, imagine what sort of technological advancements you're going to be contributing to over your lifetime. So it's very, very exciting. So let's look at some of these things, I suppose, that all sort of intertwine. And as I say, maths is a fundamental part of engineering and computer science. So it's the study of quantitative structure, space and change. And it really does underpin everything else that we do in engineering and computer science. Not just engineering and computer science, I must add as well. Our maths school do a lot of service teaching, which means they teach mathematics to people outside of our faculty. They teach maths in sciences and humanities and all these other places as well. I mean, you can't do any sort of degree now without doing some form of statistical evaluation. So maths really not just underpins computer science and engineering, but it really underpins nearly every program that you're going to get exposed to in the university. So very, very important and very exciting for those that enjoy working with numbers. So almost everything that we do in our daily lives is impacted by engineers. So earlier this morning, I used the example of the very chair that you're sitting on. The reason that chair isn't broken, I hope not too many are broken to prove me wrong, but the reason that the chair isn't broken is because it's been engineered. It's been engineered. Somebody's looked at a chair, they haven't just built it just so it looks nice, they've worked out the maximum weight that's going to go on it, the likelihood of somebody jumping up and down on that chair, and they've made it fit for purpose. Okay, so engineering is in the very chair that you're sitting in, it's in all the equipment that's sitting on this desk here, the cameras that we see around the room, the audio systems, everything that impacts our life, everything that we touch has been impacted by engineering. You wake up in the morning, the toothbrush that you grab hold of and clean your teeth with, somebody has designed that to make it look nice and also to fit in your gob properly as well so that it can effectively clean your teeth. So everything has been engineered. Turn the tap on in the morning. You might look at the tap and think, well, that's a nice looking tap, that's been nicely designed. But look at all the infrastructure that's gone behind that tap. How's the water actually got from the lake to your house? How's it been? Who's worked out the amount of chemicals that need to go in there, or the machines that feed the chemicals into it to make sure you haven't got these horrible, sort of stomach churning microbes that are coming out through your tap as well. So the infrastructure behind it. Not just that, but before that all gets built, who's modelled it? Who's simulated all this stuff happening? Who's worked out the numbers? So just something as simple as the water that flows out of your tap, the electricity supply that finds its way to your house, everything, engineering, the phone, even the fridge, as I said earlier, self-ordering fridges these days that let you know when you're out of margarine, and before you know it, you've got margarine getting delivered to your door. So engineering touches everything that we do. So there's some fundamentals there. I'm not going to read all of them out, but there's some fundamentals of engineers, maths and computer sciences. Extracting the natural resources, be they out the ground or be they harnessing the wind or the energy from the sun. These are factors that are of interest to engineers. And I say not just actually doing that, but a lot of the time you need to simulate this stuff. It can be very expensive to build stuff and engineer stuff and find out that you've got things wrong. So more often than not, particularly in the realm of engineering, you hear the term modelling and simulation, and that's when all the computers, the powers of computers are required, and where you need to work out what equations you need to make sure that stuff is fit for purpose, and simulate how it's going to work. So all of these aspects are touched by mathematicians, computer science, and engineers. There's a list here of what's seen to be the biggest challenges of the 21st century, and who actually wrote the list? Let's just go back. National Academy of Engineering. Okay, so this was identified by the National Academy of Engineering as the greatest challenges of the 21st century, and there's quite a few. So I keep turning this off. Let's read a couple at random. Reverse engineering the brain, understanding the function of the brain. Managing the nitrogen cycle, it's all part of sustainable energy engineering. Provide access to clean water. Most of the world, or great chunks of the world, still don't have access to clean water. Advanced health, informatics, preventing nuclear terror. These are all seen as the challenges, not just engineering challenges, but the challenges of the 21st century. But when you look behind them, engineers are becoming involved in addressing these challenges and providing solutions for these challenges. Mechanical engineering, petroleum engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, computer science, mathematical sciences, they're all behind all of these challenges, all making progress towards the solutions for all of these challenges of the 21st century. So touching the world we're living and affecting the world that we're going to be living in the future, shaping the world that we're going to be living in the future. So there's always a national skills shortage in STEM, sort of science, technology, engineering and maths. It does vary a bit, it bounces around a bit. Sometimes there's a skills shortage of electrical engineers or mechanical engineers or mathematicians, maths teachers, scientists, science teachers, science researchers. It sort of goes up and down, but in general, when you put all of that collective together, there's consistently a skills shortage, which means that these people are in demand, which means that you've got a really good probability of getting a job in that field at the end of it. Not such a good possibility when you consider when you compare that to some of the other degrees that you might be looking at. So very, very good employability prospects in STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths. So long-term skill shortages right across the whole STEM-related disciplines, demand for graduates, and there's one bullet point there that's jumping out at me, looking for graduates that are flexible and adaptable to market shifts. And that's exactly the way that we try and teach. We try and build these, if you like, soft skill attributes into our graduates so they are adaptable, they're ready, they hit the ground running, not just locally, but from a global perspective as well. So employable the world over, adaptable for who knows what the future's going to bring. So national priorities, so addressing the national priorities, a few things that jump out here that engineers, mathematicians and comp scientists are all involved in. Particular example of mining. You might think it's just people digging holes in the ground, but far from it. There's a huge infrastructure that goes on behind mining where you've got a really eclectic mix of engineers working in that area. Not just mining engineers, but civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, electronic engineers. Again, a lot of the stuff, if they're going to mine a particular seam, that needs to be simulated on how they're going to go about doing it. So computer systems get drawn in, and behind that as well, there's certain equations and the like, where all the mathematicians have to get drawn in. So something as fundamental as mining, you might think, if you've got a shovel, you're okay. Far from it, mathematicians, comp scientists, engineers, all operating behind the scenes there. Electrical and electronic engineering, again, basically, if it's got a plug on it, it's going to involve electrical engineer, electronic engineer, everything that's, electronic toothbrushes, phones in your pocket, as I say, everything is, there's a vast array of electronic devices these days when you compare to the current generation to my generation. So technology is always moving forward. And I'm talking about the things that exist now that you could be working on. There's probably a lot of things that I haven't got a clue about that you could be working on because nobody's invented them yet. Okay, so I'm trying to anticipate things that you'd be working on, but half of them may not have even been invented yet. So software engineering, okay, if you've got people actually creating hardware, tangible stuff, And a lot of this stuff is all automated. Then, of course, it's got to have code. It's got to have software behind it to make it work effectively. So software engineering, again, is a very important part of this. Pharmaceutical engineers, talk a little bit about that. I mean, well, hang on, don't you mean chemists? No, I don't mean chemists. I mean pharmaceutical engineers. How are the tablets actually manufactured? What mixes all the various chemical compounds together in the right proportion? What packages them? What makes sure that all of this stuff gets distributed? The logistics behind it all. So there's an awful lot of engineering that is involved in the pharmaceutical area as well, not just the chemists, but the automation of it all, the production of it all, the design of the systems that produce all of these drugs and the like. Petroleum engineering, that's sort of fairly self-explanatory. It's engineers who are focused, I suppose, on getting oil out of the ground. That in itself provides a lot of challenges because oil doesn't just exist underneath the dry area of land; it also exists, in the land underneath the ocean. So again, some big challenges there that need to be engineered towards solutions. So another example, sports engineering. Now, those that sat in here half an hour ago, you'd heard me talking about sports engineering. Those that haven't, sports engineering is looking at, I suppose, helping to get the best performance out of athletes. Not just athletes as well. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes on with in the disability sort of area, but looking at mechanisms to train our athletes, to get better performance out of our athletes, to help people that are physically challenged in some way as well. So a lot of engineering involved in these sort of in these areas. Now I can keep going on and on and on, and I am to some extent, but sustainable energy, the world has got a finite amount of resources, so we're looking at cleverer and smarter ways of harnessing energy from the wind, from the sun, making things use less energy, so designing them to use less energy, designing to be recyclable. And the opportunities for engineers, computer scientists and mathematicians, they are really endless, and I could just keep talking about this all day, but I suspect I'm probably going to get a 2-minute warning in a minute, so I won't. Renewable energy. Actually, those two projects, I was involved in both of those. This one here on the right, this was a hybrid car that students designed and built, and that was a joint project between electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. The motorbike on the other side there, I always get my left and right mixed up here, because 1 minute I'm like this, and I've got to go like that to figure it out. But the motorbike, that was a team of my students there. They designed and built a motorbike that effectively run on used recycled fish and chip oil. Went through a bit of a process to turn it into biodiesel, but it's basically recycled fish and chip oil. And that particular bike was entered in the 2007 World Solar Car Challenge in the alternative energy class. And the students that designed and built it, I took them up to Darwin, and we took turns riding the bike from Darwin all the way down to Adelaide. And it was really good to find out when we got back in Adelaide, we'd actually won our category. So that was an award-winning motorbike. So students really do get involved in some really cool projects, whether they're electronic engineers, electrical engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers. So, I mean, engineering is about doing things. So we try to ensure that our students are practically focused. I know a lot of people out there might say that, oh, the other university's far more practically focused than the University of Adelaide. But if you have a bit of a walk around today and see some of the stuff that our students are doing, I think you'd have a hard job criticising the amount of practical stuff that our students actually do here. So, what have we got on this one? Career prospects. Well, there's multitudes of career prospects, and it's really difficult to say what they all are because the variety of types of, for example, mechanical engineers or the variety of roles that an electronic engineer or computer scientist could find themselves in, it's really, really hard to sort of bullet point and list because they're so immense. So what I can promise you, though, is that all of these areas, particularly if it's an area that interests you now, can provide very rewarding vocations for you. So, I mean, this is my strongest bit of advice. If there's an area that's of particular interest to you, follow that. Don't follow it because it's probably going to have the highest wage and it's probably going to have the best career prospects at this point, because they're changing all the time. Pick something that really interests you now, something you can see that you're going to enjoy. Generally, if you enjoy it, and if you enjoy that pathway, then you're going to become good at it. and there will be career prospects for you, and there will be a good salary for it if you're the best in your field. So get your head into something that you're really, really passionate about and that you know you're going to enjoy. But while we're on the subject of pay, let's have a look at where we are in the median scale, I suppose. Now this is medium. This is not the highest earners in all of these. This is the career prospects and medium graduate salaries of engineers. You can see engineering there's down at number 4 with a medium salary at 63k. Actually, what's the next slide? That's that one. Okay, I just want to make sure. Louise, was this medium salary is Louise here? Louise? Yeah. Medium salary starting engineers or just a medium salary? Okay, so so you go, well, engineering is only number 4. You know, why would you choose engineering? Or maths is right down at number 6. Comp science number 8. I mean, why would you choose that? Well, look at the ones above it. Dentistry number 1. Any smokers here? Anyone who smokes? Yeah, you're not going to admit to it? Okay. You have a look at the cigarette packet that's got that picture of that person's mouth with all that sort of horrible sort of rotten flesh and rotten teeth. I mean, do you really want to be working on people like that all day? I'd choose engineering over that for sure. So, okay. So, yeah, I mean, you'd have to pay people more if they've got to put up with that, wouldn't you? So it's not all about the money. It's about the stuff that you end up getting faced with. And, yeah, that sort of picture of that mouth doesn't do it for me. So some of our more famous graduates, Andy Thomas, of course. I mean, he was Australia's first astronaut. Still regularly comes back to the university, by the way. Still very much attached to the university. Comes back for guest lectures and guest talks and the like. Didier Elzinga there, Bachelor of Mathematical Computer Science, co-founder of Rising Sun Pictures, very heavily involved in a lot of Hollywood movies and the like. So there'll be quite a few movies where you'll see his name popping up in the credits. Kimberly Clayfield, graduate of Mechanical Engineering. She's now the executive manager of Space Sciences and Technology, part of CSIRO. So basically she's heading up, if you like, the Australian space race. Alan Noble, Electrical and Electronic Engineering, the director of Google Australia and Google New Zealand. So this is just a few hand-picked people as well, I should point out. But again, if I was to look at the success of some of our more recent graduates, one of my graduates only 2 weeks ago, probably shouldn't name her, but she came back, she's graduated from here, she's gone to do a PhD at the University of Queensland, she's looking at ramjets, and she's doing some fantastic work up there, and she's saying how she's gone to work in Switzerland as part of that research. So some very exciting stuff for our, not just these established people, but for our people who are just graduating as well. You generally find that the difference between graduates from the University of Adelaide compared to graduates from other universities, a much higher proportion of our graduates will go into leadership roles. Okay, so bear that in mind as well. So a wide range of study areas, and I'm not going to go into all of these because the schools have done talks on these, but wide range of study areas in all of our schools. And just to make it even more complicated, when you thought it was complicated enough, there's opportunities to do double degrees between schools and also into other faculties as well. So I'm not going to list all of those. Again, it's probably better to talk to the pertinent schools that run those programs, who will give you the most up-to-date information about the double degrees. But opportunities as well, if you think, oh, should I do commerce or should I do engineering? Why not? I do both. Okay, so opportunities here where we can do double degrees. Double degrees, what's my next slide? I've got to spend a little bit of time talking about this. Double degrees is one option, but also doing research after your degree is another option. You might want to do masters, you might want to do PhDs as well. Now, getting in. One of the things, this isn't getting in, this is an advanced. So I'm ahead of myself. I thought this was the slide that comes after. We've got some new programs as well. Advanced degrees in the School of Maths Science and Comp Science. And the advanced degree basically is to attract the attention of people that are right up there in the high 95 ATARs, who want to invest their time in something a little bit more challenging. So these are slightly more challenging degrees to their non-advanced counterparts. But at the end of the day, you're graduating with an advanced degree as compared to a non-advanced degree. So just something to consider as well if you think you're going to get 95 and above in your ATAR. Thank you. So, program structure, now they'll talk about units here. Units won't mean anything to you at this stage, but basically there's a number of courses each year that you have to sort of pass to move on, and generally 24 units a year. The thing that stands out there, work experience as well. A number of the engineering programs require that you have work experience. That's a good opportunity for you to go out and touch base with potential employers. A lot of the people that we work with, potential employers, they say it's a great try before they buy scheme. So it's an opportunity for them to start networking with you guys, and for you to start networking with them and sort of feel them out, think, I wouldn't mind working here. What do I do to have to work here? Well, pass your degree, and then you can come and work here. So good networking opportunities there. So I won't say too much more about that slide because I've had the 2-minute warning. Prerequisites, we like people to come into our program with maths studies and specialist maths, they're prerequisites, as is physics, although there is basically a footnote there saying with the exception of chemical engineering, where chemistry is required instead of physics. So we do like you to have maths studies and specialist maths. Why do specialist maths at school? Well, basically it opens up your options. It gives you far more options to do than if you don't do specialist maths, okay? So if you're not quite sure what you want to do yet, you do specialist maths, there are more options open to you. Also as well, you're probably going to get a better students to teacher ratio when you're doing specialist maths. Now, if you're sitting here as a year 12 student and think, oh God, I haven't done specialist maths, that counts me out. Well, it doesn't really. We're advising people in year 10 to do specialist maths for sure. But if you, I'll go back to that one. If you haven't, there are pathways. There are other pathways to come in that you can talk to people here about. Fundamentally, what it means is that there's, I suppose, for want of a better description, it's like a bridging course. It's, generally, students would come in and do Maths 1A in semester 1 and Maths 1B in semester 2. Someone that hasn't got specialist maths but meets all of the other prerequisites would come in and do Maths 1M in semester 1, Maths 1A in semester 2, and then Maths 1B in the following summer school. And by that time, they'll have caught up and they'll be basically going into level 2 exactly the same as the people that have got specialist maths. So get specialist maths, it gets you out of summer school, opens up more opportunities, but if you haven't got specialist maths, don't worry, we're here to help you. So is that what you wanted me to say, Louise, on that area? Have I missed anything else? Okay, good. So I think I've probably got a minute for questions. So that's probably all about stuff that's already happened. So further information, I might leave that one up there. Anything else I've got to leave up there? No, so I might leave that one up. But any questions? Anyone got any questions that they would like me to try and answer? Yeah.
I'm not sure if there is a general answer for this, but in general, does it tend to be more exam or assessment, like project-based assessment?
It's a variety. It's a variety. I mean, you will find exams in a lot of the courses, and you'll also find a lot of the courses that don't have exams. For example, the design-focused courses are very much sort of continual assessment, a lot of teamwork, but you know, some of the more theoretical, I suppose, academic type courses, then there is an exam. I know there's a lot of teaching philosophy that says, you know, exams are a really bad form and they're not the way to sort of educate students, but the best way, it's the best way, it's the ultimate way of preventing cheating. So really when it boils down to it. So you will find exams, but a big variety of ways that we assess students. Does that sort of answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Any other questions there at all? Yes?
You talked about this, but I didn't quite understand it. So,
Sorry?
is it possible to have a double degree with 2 engineering courses? Or is that
There is one, petroleum engineering. Where's Louise gone? I'm just looking for nods. Where's she gone? Oh, okay. How did you get from there down to there? Got a clone. Petroleum engineering, yeah, does a double degree in mechanical engineering, but I think that's the only one that does an engineering double with engineering.
Yeah, you have to look in the program information leaflet. So we have some down here in the atrium, but there's a book in there and it will tell you all the available double degrees that you can do. There is a few different ones available. A lot of them are with maths and computer science, but there are some that you can do, yeah.
Yeah. I think picture yourself in about 5 or 6 years' time. Imagine where you might want to be and think about what pathways are going to, I suppose, maximise your opportunities to get there. And I think that might help you decide what double degrees you want to do and what particular degrees you want to do. Bear in mind, a lot of the schools, the programs that they offer have a common first year. So if you know that roughly electrical and electronic engineers the area I want to get into, but I don't know what particular program, you can start off, do a year in there, and if your GPA is good, you know, if you're not failing, then you can generally transfer across into other programs anyway. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, one in the middle here.
Can double degrees become very difficult, like workload-wise?
Yeah, generally, all my time is up, so I'll quickly answer this one and then I'm done. Yeah, look, I mean, there's easy degrees and there's hard degrees. If somebody's churning out degrees at 10 a penny, then they're probably not worth an awful lot. So, I mean, there's always going to be an easy degree program that you can find out there. Comp science, mathematical and engineering degrees, they're not the easiest, they are challenging, but at the end of the day when you graduate, you know you've got a degree that's valuable, and it is valuable, it takes you places. So I suppose the best advice I can give you, if you come to university with the intention of doing a full week's work, treating it like a regular job, you know, imagine somebody who hasn't gone to university, they've got to put a 40-hour week in. If you do that with the university, and you know, you've made the grade, you've proven that you're smart enough to get into university, if you put that sort of commitment into it and have a good work ethic, you shouldn't have any problems.